Hi everybody, my name is Phyllis Kerr, and today I have a little story about client expectations. And I found out about client expectations a long time ago from a very good friend and a former client of mine, and I'd like to pass some information along to you. Being one of the co-founders of Social Media Managers School, I found that having a real clear client expectation contract is important to work with a new client, and even old clients to recircle and come back and have that conversation again. It's really important to everybody to be on the same page, so to speak, for a couple of different topics. So normally I create these videos and I talk about client expectations for a solo entrepreneur. But today what I'd like to do is expand it and talk about it if you work with a team, or maybe you work inside a business and you're doing the social media management work inside a business. So it turns out, let's use a team, and for this example I think what I'm going to do is use the example of, let's say, a social media management team inside of a university. Now, for this example, I think there are three nesting circles for client expectations. The first one is obviously the social site, and the people who visit the social site are that first inner circle, and there are expectations that people have in that relationship. And three of them, to my mind, is that the visitors to that site receive useful information, that they receive helpful responses, and that they have a quick response. Now, each one of those things needs to be defined very clearly so that anybody who visits a social site knows that they're going to have these three things. So whoever's on that team that directly interfaces with anybody on any social site needs to agree to certain parameters around those things. For example, what is useful information? Is it always just straight up information, or can it be funny things? Can it be things that, you know, kind of break the monotony of the day? What is considered useful when posting on the site? Those posting parameters. Also, the helpful resources. Where are they and what are they, and are those people available? If you give out a phone number to somebody on a social site, are they going to pick up on the line if you're giving it to somebody who needs some information? Also, what is a quick response time? Is it 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days? What about the weekend? All of those things need to be defined by the team and put into writing. Okay, so that's really important. So that's a client expectation between the social site and the people who visit that site. So that's going to be really important. The next circle, I think, is around that one, and that is the actual social media team. That's that internal team that handles all social media. And in a university, it might be different departments have their own social media team, or the university has one social media team. Whatever that is, there are still client expectations that need to be developed and signed on in a written document. And for me, I would think that that internal social media team has three areas to work on too. One is, what is the preferred communication flow for normal things and for emergency things? Because you know, in social media there's always something that happens that needs kind of an emergency response. So that process needs to be very clear in a document. What's the normal way to communicate with each other inside the team, and what is an emergency response, and what are the expectations around that? It needs to be really clearly defined. This will help you so much when that emergency does roll around. And even if you don't think there's going to be an emergency, trust me, there will be one. So defining that, so the communication flow. The other one is reporting. What's really necessary? Does the team have to come up with a 50-point reporting document, or can it just be 3 items that the university needs to know? That has to be clearly defined, and then that's just, you stay that course and not worry about all those extra bells and whistles. And then the third thing is the culture. See, with a solo entrepreneur, you get to define your own culture and how you work. But when you work with a team, you need to work those things out. And the culture of a space is probably one of the most important client expectation for an internal team. You really need to know the people that are on the team and how each one of those people works and what their gifts are, what their communication things are. And this particular part of the expectation contract really needs to be written out. And sometimes you need to have built into that client expectation regular meetings to make sure everybody is still on the same page with that. I have sort of a small personal example about that in my own life. And many times I've written emails like in a hurry to people I work on in a team, and I'm just giving them the facts, right? And I'm just like trying to be efficient with my time. And a lot of times people will come back from those and go, "Are you mad at me?" And when I thought I was being efficient with my typing, they were taking it as being terse and upset with them. So it's really very important to understand what happens to personalities when they get, especially when they get stressed, and how to understand that. And just as a personal aside on this, what I have found that I have to do with myself, because I learned that lesson, because when you get that email back, are you being terse with, are you upset with me? You have to spend so much time healing emotions with that, and it's really not necessary. So before I send any email to any team member on my product launches, I always take a moment and sit for a moment and make sure that what I've written is coming from the nicest, friendliest space that I have, and not to be so efficient with my time and typing, and understand that my energy and my power comes through the email. And so I personally have taken that as a thing I do to create a good culture within my team. Okay, so now the third circle is that outer circle in this team example I'm talking about, and that's the university itself. So you have the people who interact with the social media team on social, you have the internal social media team, and then you have the university itself. And there are three things in that circle too, and one is there needs to be a clear process of how the whole university is going to use social media. In other words, does the university want to use social media just for gathering leads? Does it want to use it for branding? Do they want to use it just for communication? That has to be really clear and set in this client expectation form. And the second thing is an agreed upon follow-up process that the university and the internal social media team use between themselves to follow up on things. So for example, if the social media team gets a lead for a student who might be interested in the university, that there is a process that the internal team uses to the whole university, and that process is really clear and agreed upon, and at any moment you could have a follow-up process. So those are two separate things, the how to create the lead and then how to follow up on the lead. That would be a really important client expectation. And then the last way is that preferred communication flow between the internal team and the university itself, and it needs to be written down on a document and everyone sign it. So really I could talk about this for a really long time, because it's really one of the most important things that people talk about in my world in working with clients, either as solo entrepreneurs or as part of a team. And those client expectations are the number one thing that throw people off when they're not written down. So please take a moment and do that process. And feel free to reach out on me anywhere and ask me any question about this. Social Media Manager School is opening up again soon, and I hope you join us. We have these conversations all the time and help people through these processes on our private Facebook group. So thank you very much, and talk to you later. Bye.